If you are someone who constantly feels like your brain is overflowing with ideas, thoughts, and information that you can't seem to organize properly, then this video is just for you. 6 months ago, I was drowning in mental clutter, stuffing everything into my head until it felt physically heavy. But in April, I made one simple addition to my planning system that completely transformed how my brain processes information. And by the end of this video, you will know exactly what that game changer was and how to implement it yourself. Plus, I will reveal the costly mistake that made me feel guilty every single day with my Hobonichi journal that 90% of planners make, and the surprising discovery about planning that changed everything for me. Hi, I'm Win. I've been planning and organizing my life for 25 years, and in the next 30 minutes, you will be discovering my honest mid-year planning system update. So let me quickly set the stage. At the beginning of 2025, I started with 3 items, which is my Hobonichi Hon journal, my Franken planner as my main hub, and my plot and arrow as my daily planner and wallet. So this setup was working until it wasn't, because by March, my mind kind of felt like a computer with too many browser tabs open and everything was slowing down and I was about to crash. But what I discovered next didn't just solve my problem, it completely revolutionized how I think about capturing ideas. And that's when this tiny notebook became the most powerful addition to my planning system in 25 years. I call it my focus notebook, and here is why it's a game changer. So this notebook has zero structure, zero system, zero rules. It's pure brain dump space. When I have a random thought, a video idea, something I read that sparked inspiration, or I'm processing emotions, it all goes in here. And you can just look at the chaos, the messy handwriting, thoughts jumping around with no specific organization. And that's exactly the point. The structured planners are for organized thoughts, but this is for the raw, unfiltered mess that your brain produces every day. So the moment I started using this in April, I felt immediate relief. It was like finally giving my brain the permission to breathe, and all cluttered thoughts making my head feel heavy now have a home where they can exist without judgment. For example, here's a page from yesterday. Since the summer holiday is just around the corner, I decided to have some activities with my daughter. So I started listing down what are the things that I could do with my daughter. That came into mind is to clean up her room because it is kind of mess. So I want to have a system where how we're going to start it, what are the things that we're going to focus on, and how we are going to do it. So I just started listing all those lists down. So there are also some random quotes that I love, some work frustrations, and a solution to some problem that I have. None of this would fit in my structured planners, but together they tell the story of my thinking process. But here's what I didn't expect to happen when I started reviewing these pages. Things got really interesting. I never expected that this simple brain dump notebook would completely change how I think about my work and my personal goals. When I was doing my weekly reviews, I started noticing patterns. Thoughts that I wrote on Mondays would connect to the ideas from Thursdays, and problems I was wrestling with would suddenly have solutions scattered across different pages. For example, here's a work challenge from a month ago, and here's the solution I wrote down about 2 weeks later without even realizing the connection. When I review these pages, I can see the big picture of my thinking in a way that I never could before. So it's like having the conversation with my most creative self, and that conversation is preserved in this golden book. My planning doesn't just organize my tasks anymore, it actually makes me smarter by helping me to connect the ideas that I would have lost forever. So another example that I want to show you is this. I was watching Matt Gray's systems on YouTube video, and while I was watching, I got ideas about how to analyze my own business as a solopreneur and figuring out my key metrics. So here's where I captured my scattered thoughts. And here is where I connected them to my content strategy a day later. And here's another content that I connected to this idea. So what I did was I just wrote down the page. This is the page 63. And that's how I connect them. I write down the pages where the ideas connect to the original thoughts that was captured. So the outcome, I have now figured out a systematic flow in my content management, and I have never felt so organized. So this breakthrough only happened because both the initial inspiration and the connecting thoughts were captured in here. So now you might be thinking that this sounds too good to be true, but let me show you exactly how this integrates into my existing system. So let me tell you, this focus notebook doesn't replace anything. It just enhances everything. Think of it like this. The focus notebook is my capture net. The Franken planner is my processing center. And this daily planner is my execution tool. So everything starts here in the focus notebook. And during my weekly reviews, I process this information. Actionable items move to my Franken planner if they are projects or goals or some important task that does not involve in daily execution. And immediate tasks go to my daily planner. And some thoughts that I have wrote in here will just stay in here because they serve their purpose, which is getting out of my head. So let me show you all these marks that I have in my book. I date when something is processed and note where it went. So this creates a complete audit trail of my thinking. Parts where I did not mark anything means these things I would like to review it later. So it's so easy for me to just know when and what has been processed and when I can go back just to gain some ideas. So for example, this part, which is to create SOP, I have not marked it yet because it's still an ongoing process, but it's just something that came out of my mind while I was just relaxing. So I immediately captured those thoughts in here. But I can't process it yet because it's still incomplete, and I will be continuing later when suddenly I feel like, you know what, some ideas on my SOPs are coming out. So I could look at here and then continue the process. So this system means nothing gets lost. Even if I lose one planner, this Franken planner system has everything important in it. It's like having a backup brain that never forgets. So just so you know, I will be making a video where I talk in detail about how I use these 3 planners into my planning system. So make sure that you hit the subscribe button and also the notification bell so that you will be notified of my upcoming videos. So another thing that I have added is my Todoist as my digital safety net. When I'm away from my planners, an idea strikes or a task that I need to do on that particular day, it goes straight into my Todoist inbox, and here's how it forces me to process it. I have Todoist set to open automatically every time I log into my laptop for work. So every morning when I start my workday, there is my inbox staring at me with all the thoughts that I have captured. So I can't ignore it because it is right there. I quickly process each item. Does it go to my focus notebook, my Franken planner, or my daily planner? So once everything is processed and moved to the right physical planners, I can actually start my actual work with a clear digital and mental inbox. So now I have to be completely honest with you about what is not working in the system. So let me tell you, perfection does not exist. And I want to share the challenges that I'm facing. So this is a cloth and paper cover, which has been amazing since I started using it in 2020. But it's kind of bulky and heavy for daily carry, and I just like to put it in my caddy. And every time I take it out to use it, I feel it's too heavy, and despite the quality is being incredible, I feel like I want to change it to something lighter. So probably I will be checking out with Yard and the Leathersmith for a custom lighter alternative. I'm still contemplating on it, so I'm not very sure will I change or not. Next is for my focus notebook. Right now, I have used up to 78 pages, and I still have another almost 100 to go. And this is 3 months pages. So I think this will last me until the end of the year. But if it doesn't, I do have an alternative. I am planning to use my traveler's notebook in passport size, because the ability to swap out completed inserts means I can archive my thoughts without losing the notebook itself. This is too thick, and I'm afraid that if I lose this, I will lose the entire thing. But at least if I do it by insert, then I can archive some inserts and I won't lose all my thoughts in one. And here's that costly mistake. I bought this Hobonichi thinking I would journal every single day. And let me be honest, there are a lot of empty pages in here, and it created daily guilt for me. So the mistake most of planners make is choosing dated planners for journaling when your life isn't predictably structured. So going forward, I think I am just going to stick to undated planners as my journal. So the real insight here is that your planning should adapt to your life and not force your life to adapt to it. So speaking of life is not being predictable, I need to share something more personal that shaped this entire system. We lost my father last year and my brother-in-law in January. And this experiences fundamentally changed how I think about time and priorities. And life is unpredictably short. And I realized that I was spending too much mental energy on information management instead of focusing on what truly matters. So having these planners as became more than productivity tools. They became processing tools for grief, for refocusing on priorities, for making sense of chaos when life felt overwhelming. So there were days I was struggling, but I learned to step back and analyze through my planning system and find a path forward. This isn't just about organization, but it's about creating space for your mind to heal and grow. So that's my current planning system halfway through 2025. I feel more in control now. My thoughts have a proper place to go, and I'm not carrying that mental weight anymore. You now know about the Focus Notebook as a game changer, how I integrate it with my existing system, the common mistakes that you should avoid, and why this approach can transform not just your productivity, but your thinking itself. If you are struggling with mental clutter or feeling like your thoughts are scattered, you don't need to overhaul everything. Sometimes the smallest addition creates the biggest transformation. But here's the thing. Everything that I have just shared about capturing thoughts is useless if you don't know how to process them effectively. And that's why you need to watch my complete Franken Planner system video next, where I show you exactly how to turn those captured thoughts into actionable plans that actually get executed. I will link it right here, and trust me, it's the perfect next step to complete your planning transformation. Let me know in the comments what is your biggest planning challenge is right now, and I will see you in next video. Bye!